we go. There we go. There we go. Boy, he's cold. Water temps are in the lower 50s now. Nice coloring on him though. Boy, beautiful fish. All right, let's let this boy go. Off he goes. Hey folks, Glenn May here with BassResource.com, and today let's talk about fishing worms in the fall. Worms can be really deadly in the fall because they kind of mimic a bait fish, which is exactly what the bass are chasing during the fall. They are actively feeding, chasing schools of bait fish up and down that lake everywhere they can, and this works really well, especially if the fish are a little bit lethargic. If they're not a super feeding mood, they don't want to chase down a crankbait, for example, or topwater, that's where this comes into play. It's a really good time to throw it, or if they're buried up in those weeds. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I fish it during the fall. But first I want to talk about a little bit of the equipment that I'm using here. This is a 7-foot medium heavy power rod. The fast action tip is pretty stout, because I want that, because I don't know where I'm fishing in the fall. They can be anywhere. So I want something that's a little heavy that I can fish those areas in case I get into some thick weeds or something. Here I'm using 15-pound Seaguar Invisix line. It's fluorocarbon line. I'm using straight up. I'm not using braid. I'm not using leaders or anything like that. I do have backing in here, so I only have to put like 50, 60 yards of it on here, so it's because it gets expensive. But I'm not using anything else. I'm not putting braid on this because braid doesn't work so well in rocky areas. So I don't know where the fish are going to be in the fall. They can be anywhere. They can be up on main lake points in the morning and can be all the back of the coves in the afternoon and anywhere in between during the course of the day, setting up on chunk rock or gravel beds or anywhere. So if they're in a rocky area, I don't necessarily want to throw braid because it can get frayed and get nicked and cut up. So Invisix is pretty abrasion resistant, and it's got that sensitivity that I really want. Plus, the water, as it begins to clear throughout fall, it gets clearer and clearer. Braid is really opaque. You can't hide it. Whereas fluorocarbon, it's got some stealth capabilities to it. You don't see it as well in the water. So these are the reasons I like using fluorocarbon. And I've got the reel on it is this is a 7/3-to-1 reel. Yeah, 7/3-to-1 reel. Don't have to have that speed. We're not fishing real fast. You can go down to 6/1 reel if you want. But a nice smooth drag is what you want. And here I'm using a Yum. This is a 7-inch ribbon tail worm. And I've got tied on here. This is just a 2/0 extra wide gap hook. And I'm using an 1/8 ounce, maybe this is 3/8 ounce weight with a bobber stopper. Now, this is really important. A lot of times when you're fishing Texas rig baits, you're using a 1/4 ounce or bigger. Sometimes a 1/2 ounce weight. Well, this doesn't have a lot of appendages to it. It doesn't have it at all. It just has the ribbon tail. Plus, it's a thin profile bait, so it goes through the water really fast. And a lot of times your bites are going to come on the fall. So if you have a heavy weight on here, it's just going to go right through that water column, and you're going to miss that opportunity to get bit. So you want a lighter weight on here, and have that nice slow fall. You know, 1/8 ounce weight seems really light, but when you watch this fall in the water, it falls about the same rate as those thicker Texas rig plastics that are using a 3/8 ounce weight. So that's kind of how I rig it. That's what I'm using throughout the fall. Now let's go out and fish it.
There you go. Nice one. Woohoo!
That'll do. Come on.
Nice. Get him in the boat.
I win.
Woohoo! Worm fishing.
Wow.
Fall worm fishing.
That is called fall worm fishing right there, boys.
Nice. Out in the middle of nowhere.
It's a good fish. Look how far I can put my hand in and get the hook out. Wow. There we go. I like that.
Nice little 2.5 pounder.
That'll work.
Yeah.
He's probably close to 3. Just looks a little short,
Yeah, he's
but that'll
more
work.
fat than he is long.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Thank you, Guy. So the fall, what I like to do is I break fall up into 2 different seasons, really. There's the early fall, which is late summer into mid-fall, which is when the water temperature gets down into the 50s, mid-50-ish or so. That's the first half of fall. The second half is from that mid-50s range when the water temperature gets down into the mid to low 40s, basically early winter. That is the whole fall season for me. That's how I break it up. So in the beginning, the first half, the fish are roaming around a lot. They're very active. They're chasing down those bait fish, and they're not going to stay in any one place for that reason. So it's kind of hard to track them down. I have a methodical approach to that. What I first do is I start on the outside of bays and coves that have fresh water feeding into them. The fresh water brings in oxygen-rich water, and that's what the bait fish are looking for this time of year, is oxygen-rich water. So if a bay doesn't have any fresh water flowing into it, I'll skip it and move to the next one. And what I like to do is I'll just start on the outside of those first. I'm looking for main lake points, humps, ridges, drop-offs, those type of things. And I'll take this, not in too deep of water, 10, 15 feet of water, not that deep. And I'll throw out here, and I'll just let it fall all the way to the bottom. And all you're doing is when you're letting it fall is you're watching. Just watch your line, watch and watch and watch, and it's on slack line, so you're not going to feel the bite. A lot of times the bite occurs when it's falling. So you watch that line and you're looking for it to twitch, pop, jump, or sometimes it just accelerates as it's falling. And that's a fish on the other line. So set up, set the hook, get that fish. Just let it fall. Once it falls, I just lift up on the rod tip about 1 foot or 2 and let it fall back down. And that's all I'm doing. I'm working it down that point off that hump in a little bit deeper water. And I'm doing it pretty quickly. I'm not really letting it sit on the bottom very long at all. I'm just moving it along, covering the water. And I'll make 2, 3 pumps like that, reel back up, and throw again. And then make my way towards shallower water as I work into that cove. Throwing at everything I can. I'm throwing at laydowns. I'm throwing at, chunk rock, docks, anything like that. I like to throw over at that stuff. If I don't get bit, pick up and move again. I'm covering water quickly. You gotta move fast to find those schools of fish. I like to throw it over. This is great to swim over the top of weed beds. You get those big weed flats towards the backs of coves, you can throw this over the top of them and just swim it back. I just reel it in, just like you would a crankbait, nice and slow over the top of those weeds. Those fish, if they're in there, they're gonna come out of it like a Polaris missile, just boom, crush it, right? Great way to fish it. Now, once I do catch a fish, here's what's gonna be hard to do. You've now caught one in a school, because these bass, what they do is they school up. They're moving in packs of 3 to 20, 25 or more, chasing down these bait fish. So if you catch one, there's going to be more in that area. So the hard thing to do is you've been moving along, covering water really quick, fishing aggressively and fast, and boom, you catch a fish. Well, you're going to think, okay, that's how I catch fish. It's easy to do that, so okay, I got to keep fishing that way. Don't do that. You've now found that school. Slow down and work it. Catch as many as you can. So what you want to do is, like I do, I'll throw out a buoy and I'll just sit there and I'll fish that area, crisscrossing it different ways, slow down my retrieve, speed up my retrieve, maybe try a different color, but I'll milk it for the most I can to get as many fish out of that school. Now once I've caught a bunch and the bite slows down, depending on where I'm at, so if I'm fishing a good piece of structure that the fish were really set up on, then I might hang out there again and wait for the next school of fish to come by and set up and catch more fish that way. And sometimes you only got to wait 15, 20 minutes for the next school to come by, and then the action picks up again and you'll catch a lot more fish. I've won tournaments doing it that way. But if it's not as good a piece of cover, it's kind of, they're loosely relating to it, then I'll just, once the bite dies off, pick up sticks and move on down and keep covering water again. Go back to fishing fast, hitting everything you can, every visible piece of cover. And then if I don't, for example, if I've done all that at this point and still haven't caught fish, then what I'll do is I'll pull off and I'll look for that creek channel. And I'll look for areas where the creek channel, where it swings in closer to the shore. where it connects with maybe a secondary point or connects with a sandbar or just shallow water, I look for those bends. And specifically, I'll fish the inside bends of those corners. So if the bends like this area on this side here, the inside of that C, that's the inside bend. It's shallower there. The current isn't as strong. If you can find chunk rock or any kind of cover like weeds or logs, something like that, stumps, that's an excellent place to fish. And I'll target that. A lot of times the fish will come out there and suspend over that kind of cover, and you bring this worm over the top of it. You can even swim it over that, like I just mentioned, and you'll catch a lot of fish that way. If I do catch fish that way, then I'll go down to the next creek bend. I'll skip the whole straight area. You don't catch a lot of fish that way. I never really have. But go where that next bend is and concentrate on that again. What you're doing here, this methodical approach, is you're hitting all the targets, the places where fish can be set up ambushing bait fish. There we go. That'll do.
A little bit better fish. A lot better fish. That's what you're looking for right there. In the boat, Joe.
Come here.
That's what you're looking for.
That's.
He had to turn around so he could steal my spot.
That'll do the spot. That'll do the trick.
That'll do her.
It's a good fish. Let you go, buddy. Another good place to fish as you get to that middle of the fall and start transitioning to the late fall, and this kind of is a good segue from mid-fall into early winter. The weeds, they start to die off, and as they die, they consume oxygen. And like I said earlier, the bait fish, they like to go for oxygen-rich water, so they're going to pull out of those weeds as they're dying and go to the deeper weeds where it's still green. So those outside weed edges in that 10 to 25 feet range, that's an excellent place to target during the mid to late fall with this worm. And here, all you're doing is it's still somewhat fast fishing. You're throwing it out there and letting it fall all the way down, looking for that bite as it falls. If you don't get bit, lift up, let it fall again. Lift up, let it fall. Try that technique for a while. If that doesn't work and you know the fish are in those outside weed lines, then swim it, slowly swim it. You're throwing it really deep now, so it doesn't take much to get it to go too high on the water column. Keep it down and just slowly moving it, just enough to keep it off the bottom. It's not a fast move, but it's just slowly moving along. And a lot of times those fish will clock it. They'll come out, they'll dive out of those weed lines and hit the bait. We'd like a bigger one, please. One of us. There's a pickup, and there's hooks. Come here.
That's better.
That'll do.
No football.
Another wormfish. Oh, wormfish. That'll do. We'll take it. Now, as you're moving towards the end of fall, what's happening is the fish will start pulling out of those shallow areas, and now they're going to move deeper. What would be really nice to know, if you know this in your lake, is where are those fish going to set up for the winter? Deep is relative in any lake, so I can't tell you exactly where they're going to be. I have some lakes where the fish will sit in 45 to 55 feet of water during the winter time, whereas I have other lakes that don't even get that deep. And that's not necessarily the deepest part of the lake. In those lakes where they're that deep, the deepest part of the lake is over 100 feet deep. So you need to find out for yourself, like maybe go on the Bass Resource forums and ask on that particular lake. That's a good way of finding out. Look at fishing reports during the wintertime. But if you know where those fish are going to set up house in the wintertime, look at where they are now, and then what is that route they're going to take? What are the stopping areas along the way, such as humps, points, drop-offs, road beds, any kind of structure? Where are they going to sit as they make their way to deeper water? I call those bus stops. I want to fish those bus stops during the late fall and into early winter, deeper and deeper and deeper, looking for those fish. They're going to congregate and relate to those areas. In that time of year, what I'm doing here is I'm not moving the worm as much. I'll throw it out there, but if I position the boat out into deeper water, say I'm fishing a point, A lot of times what happens, so you're out here in a deeper water, you cast, it lands here. If you lift up the rod a whole lot, it swings out towards you and then way down it drops. So you've covered a lot of water and it's too fast. The fish aren't chasing bait as much. They're not going to chase it down that much. So I only lift 3-4 inches. Lift it up, swing it down, boom. Lift it up, swings down, boom. So I'm still covering water, but not as fast. I start to slow down that retrieve the colder the water gets. And in fact, there are times where I'll take the boat and I'll position it up shallow. And I'll throw out to deeper water. I'll position it right on top of the hump, for example. I'll fish it, throw it out in deeper water, let the worm reach the bottom, and here I just use the rod, and I just slowly drag it up with the rod. And once I reach about here, I'll reel back down, and then I'll slowly bring it up again with the rod. And I'm just feeling it bump along the bottom, bump, 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 bump. So those are the different ways how I fish it during the fall and into the early winter. I hope that helps. For more tips and tricks like this, visit bassresource.com.